Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Elion, and we are here with the absolute brilliant Rico Monaco. Welcome, Rico.
Nice to be here, El. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Rico, could you introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm a professional musician here and based out of Orlando, Florida. Guitarist, songwriter, band leader, producer, and I also have a music school. I have a couple, bands that I lead, and I also teach and have a school where I have other instructors teaching different instruments.
Cool. Yeah, so let's dive into some questions. So, as a kid, what were you listening to?
Well, I think I was very fortunate because my grandparents were all from Italia, from Italy, near Naples. And my grandfather was an opera singer. He wasn't famous, but he ended up singing at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City in the choir behind Enrico Caruso, who was for about 25 years the most famous singer in the world. So my father and mother grew up in the Bronx, New York, like a lot of other people that came through Ellis Island. But my dad grew up on jazz and swing, and he played trumpet, became an engineer, and he could swing dance. But the music was blaring in our house all the time, and good swing, but jazz too. He loved all kinds of jazz. So I heard that, and I had four older siblings, and they were playing, all the 45s of all the, 50s doo-wop stuff, and then, of course, the 60s stuff. And one of my sisters went out with a drummer when I was 4 years old, and he introduced me to, Frank Zappa and Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin, fusion. He's a big Jeff Beck fan, and the Stones, So I grew up with a diverse influences, and music. When I was young, you either played sports or music, or academics. Or you did all three, but that's it. So there was a lot of musicians everywhere where I grew up. And good ones. In Connecticut, I grew up in Connecticut. My parents moved from the Bronx to Connecticut before I was born. So
Cool. Yeah, apart from your family being sort of like a big influence on you, uh, getting you to sort of like listen to music, was there any other influences, like say like a friend or was it a friend getting you into listening to music?
well, yeah, my sister, he became her husband. He was a big influence, but my friends, we were all constantly introducing each other to new music that we heard. So from my upbringing was very diverse. Hard rock. I mean, of course, I was a guitar player, but when I first heard Chuck Berry, when I was like 5 years old or four, whatever, probably heard it when I was younger, but that grabbed me, right away. The intro to Johnny Be Good is still one of the greatest intros ever written. And, millions of guitarists will tell you the same thing, so I remember my mother taking me to the store, and I bought Live in London, Chuck Berry Live in London sessions, 1972, I think it was. And, that was the first record I ever bought. So, yes, I was influenced by everybody around me. I consumed, my brother's 6 years older, and became a deadhead. I was listening. I didn't really like him, but as time goes on, good music, it takes time for you to appreciate it usually. But especially when you're a young brain, you're not, you like it to be a little simpler, right? But having all that influence at a very young age, stuff like Frank Zappa is, I think as time went on, it really affected me. And, and I loved heavy music. I mean, heavy guitar. I mean, a song called Let's Work Together by Canned Heat. It's got like one of the heaviest guitar tones. I have the single still. And I was like, man, that is the baddest guitar tone at that age. The power of distortion. You're a metal guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I love I love Priest is probably my favorite all time, but I respect all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if you when you get into like sort of like music, you do sort of like gravitate to a certain instrument. Or for me, it's like for me, I don't play any instruments, but I do like sort of like drums and bass, especially within metal song.
Yeah.
If they've got like a really good back line with the in the rhythm section,
Oh yeah.
I'm sold. I'm sold.
Yeah. I mean, I probably like the sound of the drums, the groove, uh, all the bass, drums. I was wearing my Rush shirt earlier today, and I actually took a picture. I was going to send it to you because it's similar to your logo with the star,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
you know, Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, you know, all those. I mean, John Bonham and John Paul Jones and, Geezer Butler and, my God, man, those guys, they locked in with each other. I mean, it's the feel of the songs, that that's something you can't really teach. You got to just absorb it, but you're right. So you like Maiden, Steve Harris,
yeah.
Nico.
Oh yeah, huge Maiden fan. Huge Iron Maiden fan.
Nico has lived in Florida for many years. He's got like a barbecue restaurant down in South in I think Delray Beach area. So a lot
Yeah,
of people go in there and meet him, and so yeah, it's good. I
yeah,
mean, anything really, honestly. I may not love a certain song or band but if it's done well, I've always been very respectful and appreciative, especially if it has success, because it's not only it's like hitting the lottery. No matter how good you are, you have to get super lucky. But certainly the super talented people, they probably would find a way. But for everyone that's we've heard of, there's probably 10, 20,000 just as good, if not better, that you'll never hear of. Maybe they don't have the social skills. Maybe they live in the middle of nowhere. Uh, it's all that. So yeah, I mean, I just love, you know, I love music. I love the tone of drums. You're talking about drums, John Bonham snare, uh, Alex Van Halen snare, the Brown sound Van Halen talked about, Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I mean, geez, man, the first song I ever heard by Van Halen, one of my biggest influences, like a lot of other people, Chuck Berry, Van Halen, was "You Really Got Me," and literally back then we had digital clock radio, and you could set it to have a beep to wake you up for school in the morning, or you could set it for the radio to come on. And literally 1978, my radio came on to wake me up, and I heard the opening chords to "You Really Got Me" by Van Halen. And I was like, I sat up and I just had started playing guitar. And I was like, what is that? That tone still to this day is, the tone is the tone of a guitar or a drum is just as important as what somebody is doing on it for me.
yeah, yeah. It's so true. Just got a message come through from my head moderator, Lisa Boo, and she says music feeds the soul, and I totally agree with that.
Absolutely, man. That's yeah. It's I've been fortunate to play with a lot of people I never dreamed I would, open shows for, and Sammy Hagar from Van Halen, who I've done a lot with. He's a really nice guy, as well as pretty well known artist, right? A lot of success. I remember one night I was in Cabo and we opened the show, and then he came up backstage and he's all pumped up and it was a good show, and I said, man, it's like 1983. I saw him at the Miami baseball stadium, and it was Bryan Adams, Sammy Hagar, Aerosmith, and Journey. and Sammy was climbing the scaffolding way up high. He was, and it really impressed me. His show was impressive. Put on a great rock show, and he said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "It's like if you're a musician, you got to do it. You don't even have a choice. It's you can't. You feel like you're dying inside if you don't play in some fashion." So like the great jazz drummers, they play all their life, and you know, yeah, it definitely feeds the soul. And if you have the ability to do it on certain level, uh, it's almost like a public trust. The people need it for like she said, to feed your soul and to give you joy and a few minutes of, relief, and pleasure,
Yeah, true, so true, so true. Yeah, so you mentioned a couple of bands there and a couple of musicians such as Sammy Hagar and Van Halen and Chuck Berry. Were they your main influences of say, I want to pick up a guitar, I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I think, you know, Chuck Berry. I mean, they're all, the Beatles, the Stones. I mean, I have grown to love the Stones more and more. Just appreciate the songwriting, the style. But my favorite guitarists, I mean, there's so many, but Van Halen, Carlos Santana, because he was mixing styles. When I saw him live outdoors in Connecticut, and Al Di Meola, a great jazz fusion guitarist, opened the show, and then they jammed at the end of the show. I mean, I was in heaven, and I'm like, that's what I want to do, but I wanted to play music from, I think I can't even remember. It was before so it was very young. But you don't know how you're going to do it. Obviously the business end is such a mystery. How do you, like I often thought I just want to open for one of my favorite bands. If I could ever, to me, that was the coolest thing when you go to a concert. I was always there early. I want to see the opening band. And when I saw some artists that became very big, uh, and they were opening, and to me, that's one of the greatest things is discovering an artist and then seeing them take off and, being able to tell your friends, I bought their album when it came out, so yeah, I mean, Chuck Berry, Van Halen, of course, I love Clapton, Jeff Beck is huge, BB King, how you got to like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, there's so many. Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult doesn't get a lot of respect. His real name is Donald Roser. I mean, he gets respect, but he's a phenomenal, not only guitarist, but songwriter, performer. So yeah, I could keep going on, but those guys, and Frank Zappa was a pretty big influence.
Yeah. I've just got a message through from Mr. Back from Doing Time. It's in a way, yes. He just sent a message. Never meet your heroes. A lot of them let you down with attitude and abuse issues. In a way, yes and no. In a yes and no.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I won't name any names, because I just don't want to disparage anybody. A lot of times people just look when they're on the road or they've been famous for a long time. Some people handle it so well. They just, Sammy Hagar, people throw stuff on stage constantly. He puts it on, he signs it, he gives it back. That's his thing, But then there's other artists, they just don't have that people skill, or they just can't handle that part of it, or they're having a bad day. You happen to run into them when they just had a fight with their wife, or but there's also that percentage that are just not nice people, or they have, like you said, abuse issues, Eddie Van Halen was a very nice guy by all accounts, and I got to meet him in 1984, and he looked like he got run over by a truck the night after a show. I mean, he was very nice, but and as time goes on, if you keep abusing the drugs and the alcohol, you don't become a better person usually, and then you have health issues, and then so he's a great guy, but yes, abuse issues, and then also I run into some people that are pretty famous that they just feel they're better than everybody else, and in some ways maybe they are, but I just think they're people, and they might be more talented than 99.9% of the people, but they also got very lucky. And I think anybody that's up there, so to speak, they realize they got lucky. They're they're a little more humble about it, but everybody gets humbled sooner or later.
Yeah, true. Mr. Buck from Doing Time said, I met Johnny Lane shortly before he passed. Great guy, very personal and engaging, but such a sadness in his eyes and soul.
Yeah. I think when I moved to Orlando in 1998, there was still Janie Lane's Sunset Strip was the name of the club, downtown Orlando. I never met him, but yeah, I mean, we can go through the list, man. All the people that died at 27, like, Jim Morrison and Hendrix and Kurt Cobain, and I think Janis Joplin. I don't know if she was 20,
yeah.
but a lot of look, when you're that young, you think you're invincible, and they're partying, doing drugs, overdose. Somebody gives you something that's too strong. Who knows? But also, a lot of times fame for some people, can be overwhelming. Suddenly, everybody's so, it's like Joe Walsh said in the song, everybody's so different, I haven't changed. Life's been good, I think is the song. It's true. It's like, okay, all of a sudden everybody is, and I certainly am not famous, but I've had some good fortune, and occasionally people everywhere I went in this area for a while, people, some people would recognize me, and it can go to your head a little, but I always knew it was fleeting. And I do this because I love music. Of course, I want to make enough money to pay my mortgage and keep putting out music, and I'll do shows as long as I possibly can. But yeah, it's a lot of great artists have suffered a lot. A lot of the greatest art comes from great suffering. So not look at the singer Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. He suffered from what I believe is depression, and finally took his own life, I think. Ronnie Montrose, from Sammy's first big band, that he was in, Sammy Hagar's first band, Montrose, great guitarist. He took his life, I think, in when he was 63 or something, So having that fame isn't all it's cracked up to be for everybody, So they could be sad, especially like, Janie Lane had Cherry Pie, he had Warrant, and they had, they were that hair metal band, right? 80s hair metal. But then, what goes up comes down. And sometimes coming down is not so easy. Who knows? I don't know him personally, didn't know him, but
Yeah. Fame and success isn't necessarily it's all cracked up to be. Especially if you're that type of personality where you got that type of personality where you just don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, anybody that wins the lottery, you think, oh man, it's the best thing ever. But suddenly now it's a great responsibility to have that money, right? What do you do with it? How do you keep it? And then almost everybody is needs money at that point. So yeah, I see it with people. You just have to try and remain a
Yeah.
good person through it all. But yeah, some famous artists aren't the best people. They're just people. So, what percentage of your people that you've run into in your life are nice, good people, not good people? It's the same, and it's just power corrupts. When someone feels, like I said, they feel like they're better than other people instead of feeling more humble. Like, I'm very thankful that these people buy my music and come to my shows. I mean, that's a rare occurrence. It's like Halley's Comet.
Yeah. 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 It's yeah, true, so true, so true. Yeah. So anyway, right. Yeah, bear with us.
No problem.
Were you in sort of like any bands prior to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I had a band before I could really play. I was like a and when I was young, I was the street football team leader, in American football and ice hockey. I just drawing up plays when I was 10, 11 years old. I would always think maybe my ancestors were a centurion or something. At least I like to hope. But yeah, I like to organize a team. I love a team and a family environment. So I had a band before I could really play. Um, and yeah, and I was in Connecticut with friends of mine, and we got pretty good. Moved to Florida when I was 15. Got a band going my first day of school. A guy sitting next to me had long hair. I said, "You know anybody that plays?" "Yeah, my brother plays." My first day of school in Florida, that afternoon, I'm jamming with a bunch of people, and that we played a battle of the bands and won. In high school, and you know and then three of us stayed together, and we ended up doing some touring, and we got a deal with Barry White's manager, the R&B disco singer. His manager signed us to an independent deal and flew us out to LA when I was 20, and it was amazing. We met Barry and Jermaine Jackson and all kinds of big studio musicians. So yeah, that band was called Warning, and we put out a record, and then I moved back up north, and I had a band there called Monaco with one of my good friends. We did a lot of gigs, played in Manhattan, worked with a big producer named Paul Lecca, learned a lot from him. He discovered REO Speedwagon, um, produced Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle, and other songs by Harry. And, you know, um, he was working with a band called Red Alert in the 80s, and they became a band called Steel Heart, who had a couple big hits. Um, so yeah, and then I moved into Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan and had another band, you know, um, and did some gigs. I was playing full time, did a lot of gigs, playing down in Greenwich Village, and then I came back to Florida because I got tired of the cold, and thought I could make a name for myself. In Manhattan, it's very hard to make a name for yourself. So I started the Rico Monaco and Soul Sons band, where it was like mixing. The whole idea was mixing of rock with Latin music, similar to Santana, but my own take on it. And I take it in different directions. I started it in '96 in Florida, came to Orlando in '98, auditioned over 700 musicians over 2 years, either on the phone or in person, and then got things rolling in about '99, 2000, and a lot of good things happened after that.
Cool, cool. We've got a question from Lisa Boo, and she asks, "What is your process for writing songs?"
Um, it's right here. I have a workout routine I've developed to keep my hands, you know, improving, or at least not sinking. And so when I'm playing, sometimes you feel it. You're in a zone, and good ideas, I call them sparks, come out. And so then I use my phone and I record them. And it's usually a guitar riff or a melody on the guitar, or chord progression or a rhythm. And sometimes it's, a lyric. I saw Gladiator 2 last night, the movie. It just came out. And, there was a phrase by a famous poet. I don't know who it was, but they mentioned, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And, and I thought, man, that's, as a musician, I have so much music out there digitally that's probably never going to go away. Not that people will be listening to it forever, but it's true what we do. And so I wrote that down, echoes in eternity. I might write a song, called that. So sometimes it's a melody, I'm just humming, but most of the time it comes from the guitar. I play a little bit of keyboards. A lot of times I'll hear a groove. I'm always tapping, drive my wife crazy, But yeah, that starts there, and I'll have lyrical ideas as well that I'll save and write down. But usually, I'm a music guy. It comes from music, usually through the guitar.
Cool. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that, for the question. What have you been up to with the band? With the band, especially over the last 12 months.
I'm writing and doing some shows. I do shows as Rico Monaco Band now. It used to be Rico Monaco and Soul Sons, and I was with a manager who told me I should change it. Anyway, it's Rico Monaco Band. But we have music out there on all music platforms. You can find Rico Monaco and Soul Sons, SOLSONS, our first two albums. And then a lot of singles and albums since then is just Rico Monaco Band. The last 12 months, I did some show. I do shows with Tito Puente Jr., who you auditioned, not auditioned, who you interviewed. And his dad was the famous Latin jazz composer, band leader, who wrote Oye Como Va, the famous song by Santana. Is a legend. So we do shows, Rico Monaco Band with special guest Tito Puente Jr. We played. We do a few shows here and there. We played in Paris. We played in San Francisco. Not in the last 12 months, but New York City, Salt Lake City. But we played in Connecticut just about a month ago, and so I'm working on new songs, and I'm having discussions with a manager to try and help me, take the career back up to the next level, whatever that level may be. And we've got some gigs. I also do some private events with a band that I put together to do private events. That's all kinds of different music. But I'm writing a group of songs that I plan on putting out next year, and we're going to be playing a show with Tito, in fact, in Mount Dora, Florida, in January. And I have some other events that are private. And we're working on possibly going to New Jersey and New York in April. And, there's all stuff comes in out of 9 out of 10 things never work out. So I could mention, Venice Beach, California, or, they contact me about a show. So I don't, but I'm hoping to get busier this coming year again. I did go to Japan with a project at the end of June. Last year I played in my grandparents' hometown in Italy, in the Piazza, and we created a documentary video about that whole thing, going back to where your ancestors are from, and all my cousins are still there. It was amazing. That's called Italo Americano, Rico Monaco Live in Italy. And not only the show, which isn't the best sound, but we recorded it with a Zoom camera, but also I went around, my cousins fed me the best food in the world. And then I went to Rome, I went to the Amalfi Coast. So we put that in there. I put a lot of content out. And then I went into Mexico. Sammy Hagar from Van Halen, he has a birthday bash every October. He celebrates his birthday and plays a bunch of shows. Famous people show up. I've been there 6 times in the last 20 years. He invites me and I go and I'll play. He'll ask me on stage sometimes. And most of the time I'll play with the house band. So I was there a month after I was in Italy last October. Then I was in New York City doing a conference with my band in January and so on. You know, it's I want to be busier, but I've been pretty busy.
Cool. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're writing some new music. Could you tell us a little bit about that, if you can?
Yeah. Well, one song I'm finishing now is a song that I released, and I'm rewriting it because it's called Ciao Bella Signorina. Now, my music is a mix of Latin and rock, and I use my Italian influence. I write some in Spanish, mostly English, but I write also some in Italian. So this song has an Italian chorus and an English verse. It's about going to Italy and meeting a girl on the piazza and falling in love in the Blue Grotto and, you know, in Capri. But it's about my love of Italy, really, you know. So that song had I think the tempo was like 118. And when I went to Italy last year, the bass player who played with me is originally from New York, played with me there, and he moved to Italy, married an Italian girl. And he's a great musician. He said, why don't we do this song really slow? And I'm like, no. I've been playing it for 15 years like this. And I'm like, all right. So we tried it. And I was like, oh my God, this is the tempo the song should be. You know, tempo and key of a song. I learned this from a great producer, Paul Ecca. He's the most important thing is, you know, you can write a great song, but you got to have the right tempo and the right key for the vocalist, you know. Anyway, so I'm redoing that song, Ciao Bella Signorina, in a much slower tempo. And then I have, I always have a ton of ideas, but I've got about 6 that are really diverse, you know, and that's part of the problem for me is I'm not in, you know, I'm kind of like my own genre because I go from here to there. So some of the songs are really, I really enjoy them. Also, just to mention, I have put out quite a few interesting songs where I'm singing. I've always had like a great vocalist. I tried to have a great vocalist in the band, and then I'll have a male and a female. And I sang, but only some lead. And I just really wanted to try and take over the lead vocal duties, even though I'm not the best, because I just like that connection directly to the audience if I'm writing the songs. And then I have a female who I feature and who can really sing well. And so I put out songs like the last couple of years that I think, you know, I'd love for people to check out. Magnifico, I'm a Fan is about being a fan of music. And I really love that song. And Gotta Keep Moving is a, you know, pretty heavy song, really. Hard rocking song that's got a little bit of a world influence, a little bit of a Zeppelin influence, I think. And so there's like 6 songs that I put out as singles in the last 2 years that people can find them on YouTube. And, you know, I sent you some links via email.
Yeah. I'll check them out. Check them out later. Yeah. So you mentioned that you sort of like going to sort of like several different genres. Would you sort of like do a rock album or a Latin album or like a samba or samba album, or would you put them on all on one record and actually put it out?
Yeah, it's not, you know, people in the music business, you know, they're like, okay, we're not sure what to do with you. You know, I've had meetings at labels and I've got letters from presidents of labels. I just stayed independent. I was almost signed a couple times. I did have an independent deal, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, I did an album. I sent you some links that was really rocking, you know, because I just was feeling it at that time, called We Rock You Rust too. And I had a guy that could really sing some, you know, great high stuff. And, but most of my stuff is a mixture. In one song, you know, it's a combination of my influences. And, sometimes they lean a little more rock. Sometimes they lean a little more, Latin influenced. But I think, the thread is me through it all, my personality, my style of guitar playing. You hear that. That's like kind of the string that goes through it. And, I go where my heart leads me. And, not all managers and A&R people at record labels, they want to control. Well, they want to make money. Look, it's all about making money. But for me, it's all about doing what I love and trying to find that, of course, be commercial enough to where people want to come and see you play or listen to the music. It's that balance.
Yeah. True. So, are you sort of like planning on bringing out merchandise for what you do?
Yeah, no, I have. We have. We still sell CDs at shows. I have CDs. You can find them on RicoMonaco.com. T-shirts. We have beer koozies. Photos and stuff. Do I have any other merchant right now? I think that's what I have. But we when a new song comes out, we might we used to do stickers, but that's it, just T-shirts and CDs mainly.
Cool. And that's you can get it for people who want to buy the merchandise. That's over on your website, ricomonaco.com.
Yeah, I think there's a shop link. So, I always say, buy a T-shirt and feed a musician, so it's all appreciated. Really, if someone just shares a song, clicks the link and shares it with a friend, that's invaluable, because the analytics light up when you have people from England or Italy and Mexico or all over the US. Just, it helps tremendously if people share your music. Add my music, our music to your playlists, on Spotify or Apple or whatever platform you use, so that's really helpful. But yeah, of course, buying something or coming to a show is great. Of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not big social media guy, but I'm working on it. I just, like I told you earlier, I need to practice listening and write songs, and to be a great social media person, it takes work, and I respect it. But I like to make music most of all.
Yeah, true. So I know there's quite a few people who watch the show. Always say, make sure you ask this question, because if I don't, they'll probably lynch me. And would you put your music onto vinyl records?
Would I?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I haven't recently, but believe it or not, when I recorded my band when I was 18, we got on a Miller High Life, the beer company, Miller High Life Rock to Riches Talent Search album for South Florida. So that was the first vinyl I was on. And then when I had to deal with Barry White's manager, he put out a record. So I have the vinyl, the band Warning. But yeah, I still have probably 1,000 LPs, from not of mine. I have some of mine, but yeah, I would love to. I love vinyl. There's nothing like that warm tone.
Oh yeah. It's every time I ask that question, everybody says exactly the same thing. It's the warm richness of the tone of the sound that's coming through the speakers. Yeah, from the vinyl is.
Well, it's like as a guitarist, the tone that comes from tubes in an amplifier. It's what we grew up on. We're conditioned to like that sound, but it truly is warm. It's got a warmth and it's rounder and warmer than a lot of digital stuff is more sawtooth. It's a little it's not as pleasing, but the kids that are growing up today, they're used to listen to what they listen to. I go to the gym and all they play is it's all rap type based music, or the Latin stuff, like Bad Bunny, that whole. And hey, that's what they don't want to. They don't want to love. Some of them might love what we grew up on, but they want their own music, man. So that's gonna keep happening. Their music will someday be old too. So
Yeah.
I like music that tries to take in modern vintage, I call it. Use some modern ideas, musical ideas, obviously production ideas. But Frank Zappa has an album called "You Are What You Is." So at some point you are what you are. So to try and beat that, I have friends tell me, "Oh, you should write a hit song, like write a song and try and get a hit that the kids are gonna like." And I'm not gonna chase my tail. I'm gonna do what I do best. I have to like it. If I don't like it, if someone else likes it, great. But if I don't like it, what am I doing it for? To make money? Yeah, of course, somewhat, but no. But that's me. Everybody does it their own way.
Yeah, true. I see Christina Avila's in the chat there. Saying hello,
Yeah.
Rico.
Hello, Christina. It says her name is Chris.
Yeah.
Chris Avila from Connecticut. She's
Yeah.
from Connecticut. That's near where I grew up, and which is similar to England. A lot of 2/3 of all days are overcast. That's why I live in Florida, man. Sunshine State. But it gets hot. It's not perfect anywhere. But when I go up there, man, I love it. I've been to London. Are you near London?
300 miles away.
So you're not. You're not. So you're way north.
Yeah, way north.
I'm closer to what? What city?
Yeah, I'm closer to Edinburgh and London.
Okay. Yeah. So a guy that I've become friendly with since MySpace was a thing. You remember MySpace? He found me on MySpace. He's from Newcastle. His name is Norm.
I'm only 8 miles away from Newcastle.
Oh, okay. And so he's on my Facebook page, and maybe he'll hear this. And so, there's a few others too that's the beauty of, we're talking about technology being a pain in the neck sometimes, obviously. But, you can remain in contact with people from all over the world. And that's nice. I have a guy that plays our music, and I think he's in Colombia, and, it's really cool. I mean, music is everything, man. To me, it's my life. It's been a battle. It has not been easy to survive, but I've survived, and I've had a lot of amazing things happen that I never dreamed would happen. But I've also worked really hard to make them happen, and I feel very fortunate. And I don't feel like I'm done. That's for sure. I'm kind of hitting my stride in some ways, and I like to share it with younger musicians too. That's where teaching. I really have a really well developed lesson plan with worksheets and videos, and the passion I have for it is pretty obvious, and helps the student. But paying it forward. The guitar is not maybe as popular as it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago, but people are always, I think, at least until my days are done, are going to want to see people that can manipulate an instrument real well. And there's nothing like a live performance. I've had such amazing moments watching concerts, and fortunately being on stage for some great experiences. So the experiences and the moments that I have are what make it all worth it. All the sacrifices for me has been worth it.
Yeah. Speaking of live performances and playing sort of like live concerts, you mentioned earlier that you are looking to get out more do more shows next year. Have you got any shows lined up that you can actually see?
Yeah, January 18th in Florida, Mount Dora's, nice, beautiful little town. I think it's about 45 miles northwest of Orlando. We're playing at the Mount Dora Music Hall with Tito Puente Jr. as my special guest. So if you're in Florida or if you're coming to Florida, January 18th, the tickets are on sale now on Eventbrite. And then I've got a group of shows that I can't announce yet that I'm working on for spring. And, things come up, like the phone can ring after we get done here. Hopefully it will. And something will come up. Like I said, I'm planning on going back up north. I'm always working on trying to get to Europe, go out to California, but it's not easy. People got to want to see you.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like you got to have like some sort of like audience in a particular area to make it worthwhile to actually get to that area.
Yeah, I mean it's in the business we have what we call hard ticket shows and soft ticket. Hard ticket is when you're playing an arena and people are coming because Queen is playing. They're buying a ticket because Elton John is, or whoever, name the artist, And then there's festivals that have, like a town has a festival and they have a couple stages plus a bunch of other, rides or whatever it may be, entertainment, and they have a budget and they want good bands. So but they're going to have 50,000, 100,000 people come through over 2 days, say, or 3 days over a weekend. So that's a soft ticket thing. You don't have to sell tickets. You don't have to be an artist that can sell a bunch of tickets. Selling tickets is not easy, and that's why the tribute band thing, I don't know how big the tribute band thing is over in Europe and England.
It's big.
Very big. Yeah, because people want to hear what they know, right? And I understand it. I like it. I respect it. But that's miles away from writing, producing, releasing, promoting, and playing your own music live. It's like on another planet. It takes a great musician to play Pink Floyd perfectly and put on a great show or name the tribute artist, name the band, My Cousin the Steely Dan was very difficult. But, if you didn't create it, it's a lot easier to just go, let me pick these 30 songs that everybody loves and knows, and we'll get, and people, people pay for it. It's easy to sell tickets. You have a built-in audience. It's this Rolling Stones tribute band is playing, if they're decent and they do a decent amount of advertising, they're going to sell 300, 500 tickets, And so, but that makes it, it's hard. It's always been hard for songwriting artists. Always. It should be. It always will be. But the tribute band thing is kind of like, I don't want to be somebody else. I don't mind using my influences, but I don't know. I guess they like it, and that's fine, but it's over the top right now. People, you want to hear obviously you pay to go see an artist, you love their songs, but you need new songs to continue to come out, So I just hope that people support, not just me. Of course, I'm biased. Selfishly speaking, I want people to listen to and I put out songs, by the way, remakes of other, famous songs, but I'm a writer and I put that out. And I think you should support people that are going that extra 10,000 hours it takes to become a good writer, producer, band leader, especially of your own music, So
Lisa Boo has just said, you have a new follower, Rico.
Well, that's good. I appreciate them. Hey, I take them one at a time. Like we do a show, and I feel I'm just a fan. I have this song called "I'm a Fan" because I love playing this thing. I think I'm pretty good at it, but I'm a fan, So when we do a show and we, after the show, I go sign a few things and say hello to everybody that wants to say hello. I'm very humbled by it, and you know, it takes one person to share your music to get it to two people, then 10 people, and so I greatly appreciate it. And even if it's just that one person, that's that's great, man. That's victory for me. Like I said, I have to like it first, but then if one person likes it, okay, it gives you vindication. It's like, okay, I'm not completely up my own butt on this. There's some validity to it, and if someone gets some joy out of what I do, man, oh man, that's the best.
Yeah, that's the thing with me. With when I'm doing this, if I can get at least one person to check whoever it is out, I've done my job.
And I appreciate that. I
So,
appreciate that. That's why I'm here. I love talking about music, as you can tell. We can go on for days, hours easily. But
definitely.
so I appreciate you, and and I know you're metal. I mean, but just so you know, I mean, Judas Priest, I love those guys, but of course, Black Sabbath, you consider Black Sabbath the godfathers of metal or no? Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you think Black Sabbath is the godfathers of heavy metal? No.
I would say one of the first ones. One of the first ones to actually really like who were there on the at the very beginning. I would say they were more of a doom metal, especially with some of the best, especially with some of the riffs that Tony Iommi was coming out with.
Yeah.
And because if you listen to some of the interviews that they've done, I know Tony Iommi was working in a factory down in Birmingham, and that's how he got lost some of his fingers on his left hand.
I know.
So they sort of like used those experiences working in the factories with like the heavy industrial sound of like the constant machinery, and that's how that's how they sort of like, especially with Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, or and those types of songs where they use that really heavy, so especially with Gates's bass line as well. Couple that with like Tony's riffs.
Hell yeah, dark. Those riffs were. He's on the cover of Guitar World, I think, this month, and he says it was like he loved horror movies, and when he started writing a few of those riffs, they were like, yes, that makes us feel like we feel when we're watching a horror movie, which a lot of people that we love to be scared but yeah, it's just amazing. It's just interesting, to hear what you think. I think the heaviest bands, back then, Deep Purple had, and Zeppelin had their heavy stuff, but they had the other side of it too, But yeah, it's interesting how, and then of course, Priest and Iron Maiden, Metallica really, and that whole, Slayer, and then you get into Pantera, that's, so I love everything, man, especially good guitar, but really it doesn't have to be guitar,
Yeah. Sort of like if you, going back to sort of like Black Sabbath with Geezer Butler. Yeah, I'd seen the interview with Geezer. He actually came up with the band with the name Black Sabbath because his brother went to see the Boris Karloff film Black Sabbath in '68, and he sort of like and the rehearsal room that they were at was opposite a movie theatre that was actually playing Black
Black
Sabbath.
Sabbath. Yeah.
And he's looked out the window and says, "Oh, I've got a name for a band, Black Sabbath."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was
it's
sitting.
one of the hardest, by the way, one of the hardest things to do is to come up with a name for a band. You can be it's like you ask any big guy that has a band or girl coming up with a name. Of course, mine is named after me, but that was because my style of music is my name kind of fits the style, I guess. A lawyer that I was working with from New York City said, "Name it after you, man. It fits the style, and you do all the work. It's your band." And believe me, musicians give me a hard time. Used to, but yeah, naming a band is hard. So that Black Sabbath, I mean, it's like Keith Moon. What he said, Jimmy Page's new Yardbirds, they're going to go over like a Led Zeppelin. Supposedly that's where they got the name. That's what I've always read.
Yeah, yeah, it is hard
I
to.
love all that stuff. I mean, like, look, it comes down to groove, like you said, the drums and the bass. Man, oh man, And Ozzy obviously had, he sounded like a witch. His voice just so unique. And actually, that new song from what is a year or two ago now, Patient Number 9, with Jeff Beck playing guitar with Ozzy, is so good, man. I think Zakk Wylde is on it, but it's so good, man. And it's got that that ominous horror thing going, Patient Number 9.
Yeah.
which I love,
Yeah. Yes, Zakk Wylde was actually the main guitarist when Ozzy was, when was it? Through the 80s into the 90s at one time.
Oh yeah, late 80s and then into the 90s. Yep. Yeah, no, he's New Jersey guy. And great guitarist, man. There's so many great musicians, And the thing that's interesting is it's you get to a certain level and it's apples and oranges, comparing Eddie Van Halen to Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, it's apples and oranges, or name any of your favorite metal guitarists, They're all, it's the uniqueness that's as important as the technical ability, There's, you go on YouTube, there's people that can play all the Van Halen licks, which were nearly impossible, but I hear a difference, like all these Van Halen tribute bands, they don't have the swing. Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen grew up playing jazz swing with their father as little kids. In that, you hear it in all their songs. I'm the One, Hot for Teacher, any of the double bass songs. And, even David Lee Roth, when he toured on his own, had great musicians. They play Hot for Teacher, and I'd be like, yeah, it's good, but it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing, we say, not to disparage, but it's the uniqueness, B.B. King. When you hear one note, it's B.B. King. Clapton, Clapton, a lot of guitarists that are shredders or really, they poo-poo Clapton. And I say, okay, let me hear you play one of his, one of the solos, and they'll be blazing away, but it's not touching you, It's about the soul coming through that instrument, and that's that. I like the technical side of it mixed with the emotional side, but the emotional side is more important in the end.
Yeah. I was interviewing Dave Rebels the other day, and he basically said exactly the same thing. If you haven't got the soul, if you haven't got the emotion, the raw emotion from basically he said that if you're going to do a song, a cover, say of say Black Sabbath, say Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, if you don't get the nuances or the emotion from that particular song, and you don't sort of like put it through your playing style, nobody's going to like say, "Oh yeah, it's good," but where's where's that little rhythm? Where's that little that little technique? That little thing that you totally loved about that particular song. Where is it? You could actually play for like pretty much note for note, but where's if you haven't got the emotion?
Yeah, it could be missing that feel that only that person who wrote it, or the originator. Sometimes people take a cover and they do it better, but usually with tribute bands, I mean, look, the general public loves a lot of tribute bands. There's a lot of good ones, but professional musicians, we can listen and go, I hear the difference, obviously, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. But you're right. I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding. That feel that Carlos Santana plays with, is one of a kind. So, I always said, I tell people, I don't want to, I love my influences, but I want to make my own way. I hope that I have enough of a unique sound. You might be able to hear on certain things. At times I do it on purpose because I respect them and I want to quote one of my favorites, but the people, Rod Stewart's voice. I mean, nobody sounds like Rod Stewart, so whether you like him or not, you got to hand it to the guy. It's Ozzy's voice. I mean, Frank Sinatra, Pavarotti, I'm sure that technically there's people that are better than all those people, but it's the uniqueness. And then, guitar playing, we can go on and on. B.B. King and Van Halen and, the people that play with great soul and feel, are my favorites,
Yeah. There's like, there's quite a few. Both my favourites. So obviously with me, anybody who knows it's Iron Maiden and Motorhead. Those are two. Yeah. Considering I've got like Motorhead tattoo and everything. So
let me get a little quick story. In I think it was 89, my friend moved to Los Angeles and I drove out from Connecticut with him. And we went to, actually Barry White was on a TV show and I took him to CBS and we hung out with Barry White and his wife all day, his first day in LA. And then we went to, Sunset Strip and we went to the Rainbow. You go to all the clubs, the Troubadour, the Whiskey, all these clubs, and I've been out there a couple times already. So we go to the Rainbow and who was there all the time? Lemmy, so I met Lemmy. And the night I was there, David Lee Roth was there. John Entwistle was there. I got to say hello to, John Entwistle. And we had a good laugh. But yeah, Lemmy, I think he lived at the Rainbow from when he wasn't on the road. But he was friendly. He's friendly. It just, like the person said earlier, sometimes you meet your heroes and they're not what they're cracked up to be. But, I just say hello, let them know I respect their music and try, unless they want to talk to me or I have a reason to talk to them, you can't expect them to, where have you been all my life? But Lemmy, man, what a unique, the Ace of Spades, of course, but the covers that they've been coming out with that I hear, like, I'm sure I don't know if they've been out a while, but his versions of some, songs are so cool, man, that, they are like, Motorhead is like, the Ramones from New York, right? The punk band, the Ramones. To me, Motorhead is like the heavy metal version. It's different, but it has a, like you said, man, it has that vibe, man, that it's in between the notes, Yeah. Story. I met him. I think I met him a couple times out there. I just said hello,
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to be starting to wrap things up. But if anybody's got any questions, please ask away. We're going to be still going to be on for about another 10, 15 minutes or so, but sort of like a 10, 15 minute warning before we start wrapping things up. So Uh, so you sort of like discussed where you are on social media, but are you on whereabouts are you on social media? I know you said you're on Facebook and I believe Instagram. You said
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I'm on. I have personal pages, but they're public. Rico Monaco, and then there's Rico Monaco Band um, on Facebook and Instagram, both. I also have my music school, Rickmon Music School. It's called RICMON, and I'm on TikTok. And I posted a lot on TikTok, and then I haven't gone on. And I just posted something I think 2 days ago, and it got. I'm being told I need to just sit here and record myself playing a couple riffs and say something, 30 seconds or 1 minute behind the scenes. That's what people want now. I put out a produced video of a song, and it's like, hey, people, that's what's popular and what's getting engagement is behind the scenes stuff like this, or short little takes. If you go on TikTok, you see what's on there that's popular. Unfortunately, I'm not a good looking 19-year-old girl. Those usually get the most views, right? But uh but anyway, yeah, I'm on TikTok. What else is there? I'm on too many. I need a team, but I'm promising you, really promising myself, I'm gonna try and do more of these short form videos where I play a guitar riff, talk about it, talk about some musical uh, theoretical item, or production, or engineering, or songwriting, or anything related to music. I won't go on there and be talking about politics, you know, alienating half of my audience. uh, but yeah, I'm going to try and post. Uh, I've been told by younger people, some of my younger students, man, and I'm showing them something. They're like, "That's what you should put online. Just what you just did then." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I'm on all the channels, but especially, YouTube Music. I have a distribution deal with a company out of Miami called CDA Music Group. Ivan Alvarez is the president, and he was an executive at ASCAP and also at Universal Music Latin America. And he's got a boutique company, which you call a smaller company, but he distributes music. So I'm on all the music platforms. So if you're on Deezer or Tidal, obviously Apple, you could find our music there. I'm everywhere. It's just it's hard to be posting constantly, and I do the best I can on Facebook. So I'll I mean, it's a full-time job. I mean, but like I said, when am I going to play this thing? You know, I
Yeah,
can,
true.
I can
Yeah,
do social media 24/7.
yeah. You definitely going to need a manager to actually do all this, especially to handle all the social media side of things.
Yeah, and you have great anxiety as an artist. It's like, okay, even if someone wanted to, we wanted to invest 50,000 in promotion. I mean, it really takes at least that kind of money, in my opinion, to get. You got to plan it out over a year, say, right? But you think, oh my God, well, what if we waste it? Because you can certainly, oh yeah, you'll get a lot of numbers. Oh, I got 100,000 followers now on, okay. But then, 2 weeks later, what do you have? Or a month later, a year later, you've got to keep it going. And those have to be real followers, not some bots from Indonesia or Siberia, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we
Lisa
we get
Bush.
hit up all the time by people saying, you need followers, pay $250 to get 1,000 followers. I'm sure you see it too, and it's
Yeah,
not real. You got to do it
yeah,
organically, which is not easy. And you got to have
yeah,
something. People got to like the music, you know. But if people
yeah,
don't hear it, the tree is falling in the forest, you know.
True, true. Lisa has just come up with a suggestion. She says you should get your music on Bandcamp, Rico.
Okay. All right, I'll look into that. I've heard of it.
Yeah, it is a good platform because a lot of people actually do use it, and I do believe that there are a lot more people going over to Bandcamp because of they got a better deal. Like the musicians do get a better deal over there.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, you mean as far as the royalties? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, it's, you know, we're all battling with streaming and everything, not getting, you know, 0.009 cents per stream, you know, or something ridiculous. I remember, you know, Peter Frampton, right? He posted some, I forget the numbers now, but he had like 175 million streams of one of his biggest songs 2 years ago or whatever it was, and he made like $3,000 or some ridiculous low number, you know. So
yeah,
you know, you've got to really you've got to love this to hang in there, but also, you know, that's why a lot of them are still out there playing live, because that's where they make money to pay their bills or pay for their children or pay for their ex-wife or ex-husband, you know, whatever it is. And live shows, I mean, people say, oh, the Stones, man, they should stop their soul. They've been saying that for 40 years. Well, and I say, yeah, but they still do a pretty good job on stage. And like, if you did something that 60,000 people show up every time you play, you're probably going to do it until you die, you know, or you can't do it anymore. Why not? It's not, you know, I mean, do they look like they're working? Yeah, they're working, but that's like the funnest work in the world in my book. You know?
Yeah. Especially if you love what you're doing, do you really consider that a job? If you love what you do?
No, it's an artistic venture. It's a joyful process. Of course, you know, a certain percentage of what I do on a daily basis is grunt work. You know, like we're talking about social media, and I enjoy a certain part of creating it, but learning how to use it and trying to get people to check it out is, but you do all that so you get those moments on stage, those 2 hours, or when someone says, I like your song, you know, you know, 90% of the time you're doing all the work to get that bit of joy and get that time doing what you really love, such as performing or, you know, writing songs and putting them out. You know, for me, those are my favorite. And teaching, honestly, it's not easy. I do enjoy teaching people, and I know when they start getting it, because I develop a workout for my students based on music theory, scales and chords, and getting their technique going. But once they start to understand it, they're never going to listen to music the same the rest of their life. They're going to be listening on a higher level. And then, of course, if they get somewhat proficient at their instrument just for fun, most people that take lessons, it's a hobby, it's for fun. It's not to try and make a living, unless you're crazy, you know, like me, trying to make a living at it. But, you know, I love seeing that process. And then, of course, people that are serious about it, I give them as much as I can give them. So performing, writing and creating, you know, producing the band, you know, getting the band ready for a show and going and putting, you know, having a successful show. That's the most rewarding, you know. And going to different locations is fun. It's like you feel like a gang, you know, you're marauders, you know, you're going to a different city or town or country and, you know, spreading the gospel, you know, of music, you know.
Yeah, true. So this is probably going to be my last question. You sort of like throughout the show, you sort of like been touching on a bit about this couple of things. Is So my last question is any advice for people who want to become a musician?
Study your instrument. I mean, you have to find a good teacher. I did a lot of it on my own, and if I had someone that really had an organized plan like I do, or there's other teachers, but put in there's no substitute for the hours you put in working on your craft, and it pays off. It just takes, the problem is it's not instantaneous like a video game where you enjoy the whole process of just learning it. A lot of the work it takes to become, anything valuable. It could be guitar or any instrument or any other craft. So put in that time and try and find someone who knows how to develop a workout, so to speak, for you based on music theory, theoretical items, because that's what you're going to use. Those are your tools. Your tool is obviously your instrument, but also if you understand music theory on a certain level, you might be able to create better music. And if you develop the facility to execute, then there's ideas in your head that will never come out. They'll never come out if you can't execute. That's why I'm saying when I'm practicing and my hands are getting warmed up, interesting things come out that would have never come out 20 or 30 years ago because I was incapable. So enjoy play the guitar or play the instrument, but study it and enjoy the process. And remember, if you put in the time, it's going to pay off. Maybe you won't become famous, but if you can become proficient on an instrument, it's great joy for the rest of your life, in my opinion.
Yeah. So true. And great advice there, Rico. Great advice. So looks like I'm going to be starting to wrap things up. And so, Rico, any final words?
Thank you. I want to get over and play in your neck of the woods, across the pond, and let's keep in touch. And anything good happens, I'm sure I'll get the news to you, and vice versa. I want to see your podcast grow, and I'll try and think of some musicians that you might be interested in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let us know.
Most of all, thank you, and anybody that has checked it out now and going to check it out in the future. Thank you very much for supporting not just me, but any original artists out there trying to create and produce music and put it out, videos and music. So I feel blessed to have done what I've done, but I still want to keep going.
Yeah, and Lisa Booth just sent in a couple of comments. It says, I have loved the discussion, and she says, thank you so much for your much love. Much love
back at Lisa and you. So I appreciate it. And thanks to Christina for connecting me with you, and let's keep in touch, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Would be. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's been a total pleasure.
Yeah, me too. For me too. All righty. We'll see you next time.
Right. Okay. I'll catch you. So guys, go check out Rico. He's absolutely amazing. So yeah. So until next time, guys, we'll catch you all later.